If you have take-home pay, for example, $2,000 a month, how can you pay for housing, food, insurance, healthcare, debt repayment, and most importantly, fun without running out of money? That's a lot of expenses to cover with a limited amount of income. And if you're in a position where you can't increase your inflow, you're in sort of a pickle. The answer is to make a budget. With all the technology at our fingertips, making a budget and sticking with it is easier than ever. And in this video, we're going to go over the best budgeting apps, what they are good for, and how you can utilize them to make a seemingly impossible task, such as the scenario presented above. Not that hard at all. What's up, guys? Welcome to Finance Squared. In this channel, we love to talk about personal finance, things like stocks, bonds. We love to talk about businesses and technology as well. Be sure to like this video if you like this video, and subscribe and click the notification bell as we have more great videos just like this one coming out in the near future. So budgeting is real simple. When it comes down to it, it's about understanding how much money you make, how much money you spend, and making sure that the money you spend is going to the right places. I'll catch you next week. See ya. Seriously though, budgeting is really that simple. The difficulty comes in a couple of places. Understanding where your money goes, making the tough decisions once you understand the hard figures. And that really is the long and short of it. No more, no less. Like I mentioned on this channel, we like to talk about the technology that helps to power your personal finances and how that technology reinforces and drives your personal finances to new heights. And there's never been a better example of this than talking about the apps that help with budgeting for your personal finances. There are so many apps out there to help you to achieve, solid budgeting principles that's simply staggering. In fact, it can be a little bit overwhelming. That's why we distilled it down to a nice, tidy list. But before you even begin to use the apps we're going to discuss, you need to make sure that you have a plan for making a budget. Without a plan, you're really just wishing that your financial situation will improve. And without action, you're really just making a wish list of things you hope will fall into place in a certain order. You really need both. And the apps will only help you to take action once you have a plan. And it doesn't have to be difficult. In fact, it can be broken down into 5 easy steps. Figure out your income. If you get a regular paycheck, then the amount written next to net pay received or something similar is probably all of your after-tax income. Except in a couple of other cases, for example, you maybe have a side hustle. I know I do. Maybe you have automatic deductions for a 401k, savings, or health and life insurance. First things first, if you do, you're on your way to financial health faster than you think. So give yourself a round of applause. But secondly, you're going to want to add those things back into your after-tax income. This will help to give you a true picture of your savings and expenditure. Next up, you want to choose a budgeting plan. And after you've chosen that budgeting plan, you need to stick to it. There are probably a million different budgeting plans to choose from. But if you want to keep it simple, you can go with either the envelope or bucket system. I'm probably going to have a video on both to describe them in more detail in the near future, so like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. And let's not forget about zero-based budgeting. But once you pick a budget, just stick with it for a period of time. Make sure that it's right for your situation. Maybe it isn't, but you won't know until you gather all the appropriate data. We'll talk about the apps that help you to do this in a very short while. But next up, you want to track your spending. You can track your spending the old school way, or you can do it the new school way. Old school is pen and paper. Those used to be the standard tools of the trade. They've now been replaced by more advanced techniques, but there is something to be said about using good old pen and paper to track your spending. There's something about physically writing down each and every expense that you take that can help you recollect and focus on the tasks and the spending that you've just done and the tasks at hand. And in many ways, it may make you more in tune with your financial situation. But the problem becomes once you get into more complicated financial situations, it becomes very hard to scale. Not to mention the fact that it becomes easier to miss certain things like recurring online payments, things like that. In the end, it may just be better to use the high-tech option. But do not sleep on pen and paper. Maybe use these apps in addition to pen and paper and keeping a financial diary. Up next, you want to automate your savings and your investments. The power of automation is not just for futuristic technologies like self-driving cars. It can be utilized to help with your financial transaction. There are apps for that as well. But more than likely, you can just go to your employer and tell him or her to send X amount of money to this account, Y amount to that account, and Z amount to this account. Set it, then forget it. Then come back later and marvel at how easily your money was saved and invested. Next up, you want to check in frequently. When I say forget it for a certain amount of time. Don't forget it completely. Otherwise, you'll have vast sums of money that you forgot you had. And if you don't know you have them, you might as well not actually have them. Plus, it's always good to make sure that there hasn't been some sort of identity theft, or maybe you weren't putting the money someplace that you thought you were, or something like that. Whatever is measured is managed, and if you aren't checking it, you aren't measuring it. That's for sure. Up next, execute. So you're no longer just wishing that you had better finances. You now have a plan and the motivation to execute, which will turn your plan, which is equivalent to a wish, into real-world measurable results. Well, next we're going to go into the tools that you can use to execute the steps in your plan. But before that, I want to make it clear. I don't have any relationships, affiliate or otherwise, with any of these apps, and I do not have any sort of sponsorship deal with them now or at any time in the past. They are simply the best apps out there for figuring out your financial situation and improving upon it. So I just wanted to give you that quick little addendum because a lot of people on YouTube and so forth have affiliate relationships with different apps when they're talking to you about them, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I might have affiliate relationships with different apps and things in the future, but I don't now. And in this video, I'm presenting to you the best of the best apps for budgeting without any affiliate relationships. So enjoy. Well, we talked about the basics of figuring out your income. Basically, if you have a regular 9 to 5, your employer drops a check into your bank account. That is your income, probably your main and only income. But we also talked about common exceptions to this rule. Quite a lot of people have automatic deductions for their 401k, and they also have an employee match. Not as many people do, but more and more people also get money from some kind of side hustle. Are you tracking that as well? An app that can help you keep track of all of that is Mint. Now, you probably heard of these guys, and that's because they are one of the best apps out there for understanding the full picture of your income. They also happen to be among the oldest apps out there that can help with this. Mint is an app that helps you take a look at your big picture income and spending outlays and give you a holistic view of how much you are truly making, how much you are actually spending, and even what your net worth truly is. It's speedy and it's reliable, offering detailed and in-depth views in real time for US and Canadian personal financial situations. It is not quite global yet. It does have a useful, clean design. You can sign up through the mobile app or through mint.com. Next up, when it comes to apps that are specializing in budgeting, oftentimes they pick a different budgeting philosophy. And because earlier you picked a budgeting philosophy that you're going to stick with, that will help to determine which type of app you're going to use to help you budget. So again, we talked a little bit earlier about a budgeting system and sticking with it. And we talked about 2 simple budgeting systems you might want to stick with: the envelope or bucket budgeting system and zero-based budgeting. Well, in the envelope bucket system, to be very brief, basically you take all the money you have earmarked for your monthly expenses and assign certain dollar amounts to envelopes or buckets for certain activities. Like, for example, a rent envelope or a food envelope or a movie night envelope or a groceries envelope. Once those envelopes are selected and financed, you only spend money in those envelopes on those certain things. Now, obviously, it can get slightly more complicated than that, with money rolling over from one envelope to the other if you don't spend it all in a certain time period, or if you're borrowing from one envelope and if you overspent in a certain other envelope, it gets all very complicated. That's just a basic example though. And like I mentioned, you can literally do this the old school way, and there's a certain charm to doing it this way, along with certain physical and mental benefits of making it real. That is, taking literal money out of your bank account and literally putting it in different envelopes, literally earmarked for different spending types that you are accustomed to making. But like I said, and like I was just talking about, it can get very complicated and thus time consuming to keep track of all of that. And that's why there's an app for that. Thousands of apps for it, actually. One of them is Mint. We talked about that app earlier, but there are apps that specialize specifically in this system. Apps like Envelopes or Good Budget. Envelopes is uniquely focused on making the envelope budgeting system easy to use in an online or mobile format. Unlike Envelopes, Good Budget offers a free option. However, users are only allowed to link a single account. Good Budget's paid account costs $6 per month, the same cost as Envelope's basic account, and they offer broadly similar functionality at that level. However, Envelope's premium service tiers give you quarterly or monthly access for higher fees to personal financial specialists, something Good Budgets doesn't offer at any price levels. And those are your standard envelope or bucket budgeting-based apps. Next up, we have your zero-based budgeting apps. And zero-based budgeting is the other budgeting system that we talked about earlier. A video specifically on this topic is forthcoming. Let me know in the description down below if you're excited to hear about that. And while you're in the engaging mood, don't forget to like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you are aware when that video drops. But zero-based budgeting is when all of your income minus all of your expenses equals zero. This is what guys like Grant Cardone mean when they say at the end of every year that they're broke. What they're really saying is that their income minus their expenses equals zero. Now, his expenses are mostly on cash flowing real estate, hopefully. But the same concept can apply to personal monthly budgets. This means that all the money going out should be the same amount coming in. If you make $25,000 a month, you're giving all $2,500 a job. Either paying bills, saving money, investing money, paying off debt, and of course, having a little bit of fun. The upside of this is that every dollar is tracked and utilized to good ends. A great free app for zero-based budgeting is Every Dollar. Now, Every Dollar is a budgeting app created by Dave Ramsey, made specifically for zero-based budgeting. It can be used for other budgeting methodologies as well, but the magic comes in with zero-based budgeting and how it helps you hit Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Mint can also be used for zero-based budgeting. And of course, you know that there are apps that specialize in zero-based budgeting exclusively. But this is the third time I've told you about Mint, which tells you just how versatile it really is. The problem is, because it's free, it's full of ads, which can get very annoying, no matter how useful they are. I talked about apps that specialize in zero-based budgeting, and one of them is YNAB, or You Need a Budget. What makes YNAB so popular is that it's not just a budgeting app, it's a full-fledged system for your personal finances. Some features that distinguish it include allowing you to budget at least a month ahead, syncing your checking, savings, and investment accounts. It also has algorithms that help you to identify areas of overspending and how to adjust them. The app also makes budgeting recommendations based on your goals, which helps you to automate your finances. Speaking of automating your finances, so one of the next steps that you should take is click on one of the videos on the screen right now for another great video on budgeting or any of the other topics that we cover here on Finance Squared. You know, one of the downsides to YNAB is that it doesn't automate delivery of high quality content to you from great channels such as this. Help to rectify that right now by subscribing and clicking the notification bell so you know when all of our great content drops. And don't forget to like this video if you liked this video. And keep in mind, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. Take it easy, guys. I'll catch you next time. I'm about to get out of here and have a little bit of fun of my own while budgeting at a reasonable level. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.